The day I fell, she laughed first, before asking if I was okay. It was a Saturday morning. The house smelled like pancakes and perfume, both mixed into something that felt fake. Mom was always dressed like she was going somewhere better than home. I was carrying a box of decorations down the stairs. She'd asked me to set up for her birthday dinner. The guests were supposed to come at 6. She stood there, phone in hand, pretending to scroll, but I could feel her eyes watching me. Halfway down, I slipped. The box hit the step, and I fell hard, knees, hands, everything. It hurt enough to make me gasp. Before I could even stand up, I heard her voice. Not worried. Not angry. Laughing. A full, sharp laugh that filled the room. Then she said, "You should have watched where you were going. Always clumsy, just like your father." That line cut deeper than the fall. Because Dad wasn't clumsy, he was gone. And she never missed a chance to remind me that he wasn't there to protect me anymore. I stood up slowly, dusted myself off, pretending it didn't sting. She shook her head, still smirking, and walked away, her heels clicking against the floor like applause for my pain. That night, her friends arrived. She laughed louder than anyone, smiling for cameras and showing off her new dress. I served food, cleaned plates, smiled on command. To them, she looked like a perfect mother. To me, she looked like a stranger living in my house. When one of her friends said, "Your daughter's so quiet," she replied, "She's just not used to people who don't trip over themselves." Everyone laughed. I didn't. After the guests left, I stayed behind to clean. My knee was swollen, but I didn't complain. When she finally came back to the kitchen, she said, "Next time, try not to embarrass me in front of people." Then she tossed her wine glass in the sink and left. I remember staring at the pieces of glass floating in the soap water and thinking, this house doesn't have love anymore, it only has proof of how much I'm worth to her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed her laughter in my head like a cruel soundtrack. But then something strange happened. When I looked at the hallway security monitor, the one Dad installed before he died, I saw the little red light blinking. The system was still recording. Every room had a camera, including the staircase. I froze. Maybe, just maybe, it caught everything. I opened the old laptop connected to the cameras, entered the password I remembered from years ago, and clicked the footage from that morning. There it was, me walking down the stairs, slipping, falling, and her, standing there, laughing. No concern, no movement, just her holding her phone and watching. It was clear. Crystal clear. I leaned back, staring at the screen, and whispered, "You laughed while I fell. Now the world will see what you really are." I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. This wasn't just about a fall anymore. It was about everything that came before it. The years of blame, the quiet insults, the moments she made me feel invisible. And now, for the first time, I had something she couldn't fake. Proof. I closed the laptop and smiled quietly. Because when the truth has evidence, even the loudest lies go silent. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She hummed while making coffee, asked me to pass the sugar, and smiled like she hadn't laughed when I hit the floor. But I couldn't unhear it. That sound lived in my head like an echo that wouldn't die. I went to school that day pretending everything was fine. But at lunch, while everyone scrolled their phones, I opened the old laptop again. The video was still there, clear as truth. I watched it twice, then again, this time noticing the small details. Her arms folded, her lips curling, the exact second she smiled. It wasn't just laughter anymore. It was cruelty caught in HD. That night, I copied the file to a flash drive and hid it in my bag. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew one thing. For once, she couldn't rewrite the story. Over the next week, her tone changed. She bragged to her friends about her perfect daughter. But behind closed doors, she still found ways to make me small. Every little success I had became her joke. When I won a school art contest, she said, you only got pity points. No one really likes your work. I learned to stay quiet. Because silence is a weapon that only hurts when used at the right time. On Friday, our school hosted a charity event. Parents were invited. Mom wore her usual performance smile, red lipstick, and a necklace that looked heavier than her love. She told the other mothers how proud she was of her talented girl. And I stood there wondering how a lie could sound so sweet when spoken by someone who knows the truth. The school had set up cameras for the event. Local news coverage, student videos, everything recorded. I watched the cameraman adjusting his lens and thought, maybe this is how karma works, through lenses people forget exist. After the event, one of the teachers, Mrs. Gray, asked me to help copy footage for the school's social media. She handed me a flash drive. That's when an idea formed. Simple, quiet, unstoppable. That night, while Mom slept, I replaced her birthday party video on her phone with the one from the fall. The one where she laughed. I didn't post it. Not yet. I just wanted her to wake up and face herself first. The next morning, I heard her scream from the kitchen. She must have clicked the wrong file. Her own laughter echoed through the house. Who did this? She yelled. I walked downstairs slowly, calm. What happened? She glared at me. Someone put this video on my phone. I tilted my head. Really? Maybe it's a reflection of something real. For once, she didn't have words. Her face turned pale. She deleted the file fast, but not fast enough. I already had 5 more copies. Over the next few days, she acted nervous, checking her phone constantly, snapping at people. When her friends called, she didn't invite them over. Her confidence started to melt like ice under sunlight. I didn't post the video. I didn't have to. Just the thought that it could surface was enough to make her face what she'd done. A week later, I saw her crying quietly on the porch. She thought I couldn't see her. For a moment, I almost felt sorry. Almost. But then I remembered her voice. You should have watched where you were going. And I realized she wasn't crying because she was sorry. She was crying because she finally saw what the world would see if truth ever left that flash drive. Sometimes, you don't need revenge. You just need reality to replay itself in front of the right eyes. For a while, I thought it was over. She had stopped laughing so loud. Stopped smiling so wide. Maybe guilt had finally taken the seat next to her pride. But then, as people do, she started pretending again. Acting like nothing had ever happened. Posting pictures online, family first red heart. And writing captions about love and gratitude. Each one felt like a lie wearing perfume. I ignored it. Until one day, life decided to remind her that nothing stays buried forever. It was a Wednesday morning. I was walking home from school when my phone buzzed. A notification from a local community page. Viral clip. Mother laughs as daughter falls. I stopped walking. My heart pounded so loud it drowned the traffic around me. I opened the video. It was the same footage. My fall, her laughter, her face frozen in that cruel smile. Someone had leaked it. But it wasn't me. I hadn't posted it anywhere. The only person who had the flash drive was my teacher, Mrs. Gray, the one from the charity event. Maybe she saw it while transferring school clips. Maybe fate just pressed upload. The video had already crossed 100,000 views. Comments flooded in. That laugh, how could a mother do that? You can see the pain in her eyes. She laughed instead of helping her? Unbelievable. By evening, our neighborhood group chat was exploding. People shared screenshots, asked questions, even tagged her profile. When I reached home, she was sitting in the living room, pale, trembling. Her phone buzzed non-stop. She looked up at me, eyes wild. Did you do this? I didn't move. I didn't have to. She threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall and fell in pieces, just like her image. For years she'd built a picture of the perfect family. One clip had turned it to dust. That night, she locked herself in her room. I could hear her crying, not the fake kind she used when people watched, but the real, breaking kind that comes when you realize truth doesn't need permission anymore. The next day, I went to school. Everyone stared, whispered, and then, something unexpected, they smiled at me. Not pity. Respect. They'd seen it too. Mrs. Gray called me to her office. I didn't mean for that to happen, she said softly. I nodded. It's okay. Maybe it was time. She sighed. The world saw what you lived through. Sometimes justice comes quietly, but when it arrives, it echoes. At home, Mom stayed silent for days. No insults. No fake smiles. She barely left her room. Dad's photo still sat on the mantel, like he was watching all of this unfold. I sat across from it one night and whispered. She finally heard what I felt all these years. Later that week, she came to me with swollen eyes. People think I'm a monster, she said. I looked at her carefully. Are they wrong? She didn't answer. She just walked away, shoulders heavy with shame. The irony was sharp. She used to laugh at my falls. Now the whole world was watching hers. I never posted a word to defend or attack her. The truth didn't need help. It was already doing what I couldn't. Some nights I replayed that first moment. The stares, the laugh, the red camera light. It no longer hurt. It just reminded me that even when kindness fails, truth keeps receipts. And sometimes, all it takes is one blink of a camera to turn cruelty into confession. The internet has a strange kind of memory. It forgets small things fast, but cruelty, it never lets go. By the end of the week, everyone had seen the video. Local pages picked it up. A talk show even used a still image of her laughing as an example of toxic parenting. Her face was everywhere. The woman who once lived for attention now couldn't step outside without hiding behind sunglasses. I'd come home every day and find her sitting in the dark, curtains closed, TV off. Her phone stayed face down on the table. The same screen that once glowed with her selfies now burned with shame. One evening she said quietly, "They're calling me heartless. Evil." I said nothing. She kept talking. I didn't mean to laugh like that. I looked at her. You did. You just didn't think anyone would ever see it. She lowered her head. For the first time, silence wasn't my punishment, it was hers. Days turned into weeks. The neighbors stopped visiting. Her friends stopped calling. At the grocery store, people whispered. And I realized something. Revenge doesn't always need anger. Sometimes, the world handles it for you. One night, I heard her crying again, this time on the phone. She was talking to my aunt. I raised her alone after her father died. I did everything, she said. Then she paused. But maybe I forgot to love her. It was strange, hearing that sentence out loud. 4 years, I'd waited for any sign that she could feel remorse. And now it came, not to me, but to someone else. The next morning, I made breakfast for both of us. It felt awkward, quiet, heavy. She stared at the plate for a long time before whispering, "Why are you being kind to me?" I said, "Because I know what it feels like when no one is." She didn't eat much. But for the first time, she didn't look like a villain. She looked like a woman facing the wreckage of her own choices. Later that week, a letter came from the school. They wanted permission to use the video as part of a workshop on empathy in families. I showed it to her. Her hands trembled as she read it. She said, "Do you want them to use it?" I said, "Yes. If it helps someone else, it's worth it." She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. For a long moment, we just sat there. No blame. No shouting. Just two people who'd hurt each other in different ways, finally seeing the same truth. The video went up in the school assembly a week later. It ended with a single line on the screen. Before you laugh at someone's fall, make sure your heart hasn't already fallen lower. Students clapped. Teachers watched in silence. And my mom sat in the back row, wiping her face quietly. After that day, something changed between us. She didn't apologize directly, but her actions started to speak. She'd ask about my day. She'd leave little notes like, "Be careful on the stairs." Tiny gestures, fragile but real. I didn't forget what she'd done. But I realized forgiveness isn't about erasing pain, it's about choosing not to carry it forever. That night, as we sat watching TV, she whispered, "Thank you for not hating me." I replied softly, "You gave me reasons to, but I gave myself reasons not to." She nodded, eyes red. For the first time, I saw my mother, not the woman who laughed, not the one who lied, just a human being learning what love costs when you take it for granted. Months passed. The video slowly faded from headlines, but not from memory. People stopped whispering, yet the silence between us stayed fragile, like glass repaired but never the same. Mom started working part-time at a local daycare. It surprised me. The same woman who once mocked my clumsiness now helped toddlers tie their shoes and taught them to say sorry when they fell. Maybe that was her way of learning empathy again, one small child at a time. I watched her from the gate one afternoon. She bent down to comfort a crying boy who had scraped his knee. Her voice was soft, gentle. No laughter this time. Just care. It was the sound I'd waited to hear my whole life. When she saw me standing there, she smiled. Small, unsure, but real. "Waiting for me?" she asked. I nodded. Thought we could walk home together. For the first time, she didn't hesitate. She just said, "I'd like that." As we walked, I realized forgiveness isn't a single act. It's a slow rebuilding, like fixing a broken step you once tripped on. You don't do it to forget the fall, you do it so no one else falls the same way. That night, I opened the old laptop again. The folder with the recording was still there. For a long time, I stared at the file name, Fault MP4. My reflection blinked in the screen, the same girl who once cried in the dark now calm, grown, unshaken. I right-clicked the file and selected Delete. The system asked, "Are you sure?" This time, I was. Because I didn't need proof anymore. I had peace. The screen went blank. The red camera light on the corner of the wall had long stopped blinking. But inside me, something brighter had turned on. Weeks later, during a family event at the school, our story came up again. The principal thanked my mom publicly for helping with the empathy program. When she took the microphone, I held my breath. She said, "There was a time when I thought strength meant control. I was wrong. Real strength is admitting when you've been cruel, and choosing to be kind again." The crowd clapped softly. I didn't look at her right away. I just smiled, quietly proud, not of her words, but of her growth. After the event, as we walked out, she whispered, "I can't change the past." I said, "Then stop trying. Just build something better with what's left." That evening, we passed the same staircase where it all began. The light from the window hit the railing just right, and for a second, the house looked new again. She stopped, looked down the steps, and said, "Funny how one fall can teach so much." I smiled. "Only if you decide to get up right." We both laughed, softly this time, together, not apart. The kind of laughter that heals instead of hurts. Later, I sat in my room, the same one that once echoed with pain. Now it felt lighter, warmer. The walls had forgiven me for the years I hated them. The girl who once needed the world to see her pain now only wanted peace to stay. I wrote one last line in my journal before turning off the light. Some people fall and never rise again. But some rise so quietly that even their past stands in awe. Then I looked out the window. The night was clear. The stars didn't judge, they just watched. And maybe somewhere above, Dad was watching too, proud that his daughter learned to fight with truth and forgive with grace. Because justice had already spoken. And forgiveness, it stayed.